opening a gym around here. But when he does, I need to go there and just be like, I roll at Muhammad Ali's gym. I got my ass whooped. Ah,
It was great.
do it again.
Like Muhammad Ali, isn't he?
Isn't he a boxer?
Yeah. Okay, I see.
Wait a minute. There we are. Okay, it's the Booze and BJJ
Yeah.
podcast. Got a quick one for you today because we're going to just answer a couple viewer questions. And my face hurts. I can't drink still. I'm annoyed. Yana, how are you?
Good. It was a good training week. I'm upping my strength training, getting ready for Masters Worlds in September, end of September, beginning of August. So prepping for that. And my drink for tonight is whiskey.
Yeah, nice. Neat.
Yes. Sipping.
I missed it. What happened? Sorry. I was looking at
Drinking
Twitch.
whiskey. That's all you need to know.
Oh, yeah, yes. I have a bottle of whiskey waiting for me as soon as I get the doctor's clearance.
And you can be like, glug, glug, glug. No,
I'll be
probably
like,
just one shot.
body
You'd be
in
like,
the yeah.
Body shots.
yeah.
Wally, how are you?
Good. Decent week training wise. Got in some nogi, got in some gi. I am training for competition in August, mid-August, I think. So I have some time. So yeah. Also got in some high intensity workouts. So yeah, I'm gonna be throwing in some strength training and some running later on, and drinking bourbon and what is this? Ginger beer.
That sounds tasty.
Kind
What
of
is
a
it?
dark and stormy-ish.
What's the difference between ginger beer and ginger ale?
Ginger beer tends to be. Go ahead, Wally.
Oh, good. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say ginger beer tends to be more gingery. You can
Yeah.
actually taste the ginger, whereas like ginger ale is a highly sugared soda.
Yeah, I think ginger. Yeah, I think that's right. It's like ginger beer has more ginger content, but like ginger ale is more so kind of the essence of ginger. Like you'll see a lot of like ginger beer. You'll see sometimes they'll have actual bits of ginger in it, but you won't necessarily see that in ginger ale.
Ah, this explains why I got in trouble once delivering ginger beer instead of ginger ale to a friend of mine.
Yeah, they're like, what the hell is this?
It's like, bro,
You
wrong
should
stuff.
stop being a ginger snob.
Okay, so ginger beer is made by fermenting fresh ginger and sugar, while ginger ale is either fermented with whey or made by mixing soda
Really?
water or club
Yeah.
soda with artificial or real ginger syrup.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
is
so
the,
they're basically totally different then.
they're made differently.
Yeah.
Made differently.
So
Yeah.
one is like
Essence of
basically
ginger, as
it feels
Wally
like
said.
yeah, it feels like ginger ale is like the poor man's ginger beer. It's just kind of you get some syrup, mix it with some club soda, and there you are.
It's like the Bud Light of ginger beverages.
Mhm.
Too soon. Too soon.
Pretty much water.
Mm-hmm. So training has gone really good for me. I slept through all my morning classes I intended on going through. My medication makes me fatigued, and I still can't drink alcohol. So yeah, brown belt is starting off fine.
Right.
You need some cocaine as an upper.
Dude, I need to watch Cocaine Bear.
Mm. Yeah, me too. The trailer looks pretty funny.
Is this a Netflix show?
I think it's a movie. Is
Yeah,
it in
it's
the
a movie.
theaters?
I think it's in the theaters, so I'm sure it'll come to streaming platform at some point.
Mhm. I can't use streaming services for a while because I got an email from my internet service provider saying like,
What have you been doing?
yeah, you've been flagged.
For
If you
what?
can, if we
Using
for use,
downloading
if
content.
somebody flagged me for copyright infringement and I was told that it's due to the streaming. I'm streaming something I shouldn't be streaming. So I have stopped doing that. A friend of mine told
Wait.
me that he got the same, like similar emails, and it was because of like using a streaming service where, you're able to
Oh,
access
okay. Like
movies that you shouldn't,
like
be
popcorn.
accessing for free.
Yeah.
See, Yana is supposed to be the good one among us.
Yeah, you gotta leave that stuff out
Come on, man. That's
to
like
us.
nothing. On top of that, I'm dealing with the reckless driving thing, so I got a court hearing on that. So,
Oh boy.
I'm a big rule breaker here.
Mm-hmm.
Go hard or go home. You know what I'm saying?
If,
Anyway,
anyways, so we got some. I had to sift through some Twitch viewer questions,
Yeah.
and I picked out some mild ones for today. We got some that were a little bit spicy, but I figured that that's for a different type of
The
different
hours.
different type of content. Um, but yeah, I put them in chat. But one of them was the first one was about this 5-minute video I did explaining my opinion on the hardest jiu-jitsu belt ranking between white and purple from my perspective. And basically we can go ahead and address that one as soon as I can figure out where the hell did he go? Hold on, give me a minute.
I think the white belt is the hardest belt to get through.
So how do you want to answer these questions? Do you want us to just like
Round table it?
Well, if you want to answer it, we can answer it. We can do it, go individually, and then we can, when we're done, we can go to the next one. There's only 4. So
I guess it depends on what you think of as hard. Is it the hard? Are they thinking is it the hardest physically, or is it the hardest sort of mentally? I think that it. To be honest, I actually think the blue belt is the hardest to get through. I think white belt you have a lot of enthusiasm. It's something new. It's great. You know you're learning new things. It's hard because it's like it's new, obviously. So you have people quit because it's just not. They just don't feel like they get in anywhere. And I think most people who quit at white belt either they go into it with the wrong. They go into jujitsu with the sort of wrong mentality, or go into it thinking that they're going to get something else out of it that they don't, or they are super focused on getting promoted. And I think that's why a lot of white belts quit. But I think if you stick through it, you end up a blue belt. And I think that's probably the hardest because it's kind of like, that enthusiasm lags. And then you're also expected to know a bit more. And then there's also like mixing with imposter syndrome and a bunch of other stuff. And then just life gets in the way. It just seems like for white belt, you put in so much effort. And then when you get to blue belt, you're just kind of spent. And that effort is just, you're just kind of like, well, I put in all this effort to get to promoted. Now what? So I think blue belt is probably the hardest to get through.
Yeah. I will say, I mean, there's this thing called the blue belt blues that exists because it's like a lot of people feel like they're stuck in that stage for like ever. But I don't know. I like what you said about it depends on your mentality going into it, and I totally agree with that. If you go into it knowing like I'm a beginner right now and I have so much to learn, I know nothing. And you stay humble in that way, and you just like, I just want to absorb as much as I can. Then, being that white belt, you are filled with enthusiasm and willingness to learn. And I hear what you're saying about like by the end of that, when you become blue belt, sorry, did I say blue belt before? I meant to say white belt. When you're white belt, you're filled with enthusiasm. And then by the time you get to blue belt, you're kind of burnt out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then, that's when you slip into the blue belt blues and you feel like you're not getting better, you kind of stagnate. I mean, right, there's like a learning curve to everything, right?
Mm.
In at the beginning, the learning curve is like super steep, because you're gaining all these skills. You're training a lot, and this is with anything that you start new. Could be a language too. This happens with learning languages as well. The learning curve at the beginning is very steep, and then eventually it plateaus. That's just naturally what happens, and it plateaus for a while,
Mm.
and then you start feeling like you're not progressing any. You're always like doing the same mistakes, you're always getting into the same bad positions, and then eventually, like, it starts going up again, right? The curve goes uphill again. But you don't know when that's going to happen. It's different for everybody. It depends on how often you train. But I feel like that's the blue belt stage, is where you're kind of like you get that like huge increase of in your skill set when you're white belt, and then you kind of plateau and you feel like you're not progressing any. And a lot of people, I think, they also quit at blue belt, because they're, as you said, like, life gets in the way. You feel like you're stagnant, you're not progressing any, you feel burnt out. And so, you're just like, it's not really worth it anymore, What, to answer the question directly, which, if white belt is the hardest belt, um I mean, I gotta think it is, because you're getting your ass kicked all the time, man. It's like, you like, because you know nothing, you're getting your butt kicked every day. Even if somebody's going easy on you, you're still getting your butt whooped.
Yeah.
And it's like just survival for the first like 6 months to a year, depending on like your training frequency. But at least for me, I'm a very competitive person. I don't like losing. And so that was really hard for me, not having the skills to be able to win, even if I'm just training, I just want to win. It's hard. Like, you just feel like, ugh, nothing, and sometimes, you don't even know how to approach um a live sparring session.
Yeah.
You're like, what do I even start with? What do I even do? And it can be like confusing. And I've seen a lot of, like, especially with females, a lot of female white belts, they're not even comfortable trying to spar, because they're like, I just want to know more first. And
Yeah, I think,
yeah.
I anytime that I'm paired up with a white belt and I know it's their first time, I definitely, if I'm rolling with them, I definitely, because a lot of times they say, oh, I don't know what to do now, so I stop the roll and I reverse the positions, and I show them, okay, this is how I can get out of this, or you could do this sort of sweep, that sort of thing. I don't just continue rolling and smashing them, because they're not going to learn anything that way. But
No, I totally agree.
yeah, and I think that
But then there's some people who just don't want to even try, because they're like, I don't
yeah,
know enough. I don't even want to try. And it's like, well, part of
that's true.
the learning process is experimentation. So you
Yeah.
have to try, at least like get the process started, get the
Yeah.
roll started, and do something, try something,
Yeah, and I think that a lot of white belts come in not understanding that part of being a white belt is getting your ass kicked, right?
Mhm.
And not really, you can't really appreciate that until you're on the mat and you're actually rolling. So a lot of times I tell white belts, you're basically, your job as a white belt is to learn defense. And once you're comfortable with people, you're comfortable with being in uncomfortable situations, and you learn some defense, then you can start relaxing. That gives you like maybe a second or two to think, okay, what do I do next? So I think as a white belt, it's just yeah. I think as a white belt, it's hard because a lot of information is coming at you, And especially if you don't go into it with sort of the right mentality, you go into it thinking, oh, I'm gonna go in and beat up everybody, or I'm gonna be the best, or I'm gonna,
You're like, I hate
go to,
losing.
yeah, I
Like,
hate
you're gonna have to
losing,
get
or
used to that.
I'm gonna do MMA or whatever, and I'm just gonna smash everyone. That's the wrong mentality, because you will quit really quickly if you have that mentality. You
Or
gotta.
it'll just be, I mean, you might not necessarily quit. I mean, I kind of had the mentality like I don't like losing and I don't like being overpowered, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
I stuck with it. I always just felt like, okay, I just need to learn this, or I need to learn that, or I need to move faster, or whatever, like I just need to see what am I doing wrong so that I
Yeah.
can get better. I don't think it's always an cause for quitting for people. Some people are motivated, when they're losing, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what I'm doing wrong. I just have to, it's like, it's some people, even like higher belts, they think when you lose, that's what motivates you the most to
Yeah.
get better, is to lose. If you're winning all the time, then it's like, after a while, it's like,
That's boring. I mean,
it's
like one of my
boring.
professors said, he told the kids, everybody loses in jujitsu. And that's like one of the truest things ever said about jujitsu is everybody loses in jujitsu. So when you look at it from that perspective and you sort of take that into mind, then you understand that losing isn't such a bad thing. It just means that there's stuff that you need to work on.
Yeah,
It's
there's more
really,
things to learn, and that's exciting.
yeah. And it's really helpful watching the kids' classes with a good instructor, a good kids instructor, because, they're telling kids really important information that I think also adults need to listen to. Like, everyone loses. You can't win all the time. So, take it as a learning, a teachable moment. And I think coming into jujitsu, any white belt coming into jujitsu, I think should look at it almost sort of like a course. It's like a curriculum. You're learning. You're there to learn,
Yeah.
not there to destroy people or smash people or whatever. You're there to learn. It's like, you go to school. You have to go to class. You don't show up to class, you're not going to get a good grade on on your finals or whatever. Or
Yeah.
you're not paying attention to class, you're not going to get whatever the instructor is teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
you have to look at it from the perspective of it's
It's a
school.
marathon, not a sprint, guys.
Yeah, all the cliches. Just really listen to all those cliches.
Yeah.
Black belts and white belt that never quit. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think I answered this in the 5-minute video from more of a personal perspective. So for me, white belt was the hardest because most people are learning a new skill. Most people are not used to losing. Um, and if you're an overweight, heavily asthmatic desk worker, doing something that is basically a full body workout is also going to be extremely difficult until you get back into shape.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of guys and gals in that boat who quit because they just physically couldn't hack it.
Yeah.
Given some time, given that, given some time to get back into shape, I'm sure that most of them, if not at least half, would have stuck with it. But the physical aspect of it just bears down on you mentally.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah.
see all these people, even some are at around your age in your same-ish profession, but they're just in better physical shape.
Yeah.
You see all these people doing this stuff basically from the beginning, just like you, and you just can't do it. Like that's a total just it's very
Absolutely.
demoralizing.
I mean, I've seen people who I believe have quit because they just physically couldn't do it, and it sucks. But I think that as a higher belt, it's sort of my responsibility to kind of take them under the wing, and because I want people to enjoy jujitsu as much as I do, so just kind of take them under the wing, and if it means rolling slower with them, roll
Mhm.
slow with them, or if it means that every time they come to class, you pair up with them. Just kind of like take them under your wing, and eventually they'll get there
Mhm.
if they're motivated enough, and if they kind of see the value out of it.
Yeah. I when I started, like I couldn't do anything. Like 30 seconds in, I was dead.
Yeah.
And it was just fine. This is all I could do today. I'll come back next time. And that
Yeah.
30 seconds became 35, and then a minute, and then
Mhm.
an hour. And then, it just went up from there. But just keeping
Consistent.
keeping consistent was just grueling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It got a lot better when I became blue belt, but that just added a whole different set of issues, like people wanting to take my head off, even though a week earlier, before I got the belt, we were just fine.
Yeah.
That happens at every promotion, right? Everyone guns for you.
Yes.
Well, now that you're a new belt, let me test my skill against you.
Yeah.
Let me see how much of a if I am worthy of this belt. I feel like that's sometimes why people do that. They want to
And
see
lower,
how worthy they are of that belt
yeah,
level.
lower belts are like, oh, I tapped a purple belt, or I tapped a brown belt. Yeah, I'm the best.
Every single time I got a belt promotion, it was like just this giant target just went on my back. Everybody just
Yep.
goes harder. It's like,
Yeah.
That's pretty much, yeah, I think par for the course.
yeah. But all right, I
Yeah,
think we.
I'm really I don't know if we want to move on, but I'm really eager to answer number 2.
Oh no, that's what I was gonna say. I think we've
Yeah.
I think we've answered number one enough. So, question number 2. Would you recommend working on a heavy leg lock game early in your training? I've only been training no gi for 1 year.
Hell no.
Tell us how you.
And tell us how you really
Okay,
feel,
so
Yana.
next question then.
That's it. Next. No, I mean, I think it risks injuries, preventable injuries to your training partners. And there's a reason why there are restrictions to certain on certain submissions at different levels in tournaments. Like there's a reason that they exist. And a lot of them have to deal with leg related submissions. And the reason is due to the substantially increased risk of injury that's entirely preventable, that wouldn't happen if you had more of a skill set, or you had more better body control that you develop throughout your jiu-jitsu career. But yeah, I think that's a solid bold-faced no. Do not work on heavy leg lock game early in your training. If anything, work on chokes. Like just focus on chokes. Focus on, like, I would say, like, even like nothing really joint related should be worked on heavily when you're new. When you're new, you're focusing on transitions and positions. That's it. That should be what you train on the most during your, especially your first year, for sure. Transition, position, then submission. Then you can start working on your submissions or whatever, which I think should be choke focused, and then into like arm bars and leg locks or whatever. But like I said, there's a reason that there are certain submissions that are off limits to lower belts, and it's due to the risk of injury. Because you're newer, you don't have as much body control, you don't have as much awareness of like the risk that you're taking on your opponent. And it's just a lot more scrambling involved when you're a newer belt. So it's just, yeah, no.
I mean, it does say that they're a year into it though, and
2 years.
especially like nogi, because nogi is nogi is a lot more. You got to do locks and all that other stuff. You can't really you don't have the gi to rely on. So I mean, I don't know. It depends if they're training nogi consistently, like multiple times a week, and they're into it they've been doing it for like a year and they want to start doing leg locks and all of that stuff. I'm kind of like, maybe, but not necessarily, if they're trying to transition into gi and then start doing leg locks and all of that, I'd say no. But if you're no gi and you've been doing it for a year consistently, and then you want to be sort of the leg lock person, I would say maybe try it out. I don't know.
Can we review what are the restrictions according to IBJJF for leg related submissions?
I think that might be different for gi versus no gi though.
What are they? So I thought except for straight ankle lock, all the other fun leg stuff wasn't until brown belt.
I think that's leg locks. Hey, I'm just saying. Well, check if there's a difference between gi and no gi.
1 second.
Pull up the IBJJF rules now. I probably should know them. Where and when are leg locks?
Toe hold.
I think toe hold is black belt.
Brown and black. Knee bar, brown and black. Calf bicep slicer, brown and black.
So white belts can perform straight ankle locks. This applies to both gi and no gi.
Is this? I don't know if this chart's accurate. Let me see.
I mean, this says IBJJF only allows white belts to perform straight ankle locks. This applies to both gi and no gi competitions. Yeah, here's a chart.
Adult brown and black seem to have the most approved submission list in no gi, it looks like. You could do locks that twist the knee? You mean heel hook? Is that what that means?
Well, you could do heel hooks. No, can't see this image.
No. Heel hook is something different according to this. Well, either way, the fun time is adult brown and black, no gi, it looks like. According to this chart, anyways.
So to answer the question, when you're a white belt, you don't really have that much of an option to use any kind of leg locks or leg related submissions. So focus on your chokes.
Yeah.
And your arm bars.
Yeah, just follow the rules.
Just follow the rules.
Yeah, just look up the competition if you want to go to the whatever competition it is. Look up the rules and just follow that chart.
Yeah.
And if you notice that you can't do a lot of leg locks until later on, learn them on the side. Don't focus on them too much. That's my suggestion.
I would say for legal reasons, follow the rules.
Yeah, you don't want to spend $100+ to get DQ'd because you decided to toe hold somebody.
Also, we are not liable for anything you do to yourself or to your training partner.
Yeah. Plus, at this point, if you focus on leg locks at the early ranks, your guard passing will suffer.
Yes.
Your
defense would suffer.
Your defense will suffer. Your guard will suffer.
If all you're doing is trying to get leg locks, you will get choked out. Yes.
Transition, position, then submission.
Do you have that on a mug somewhere, Yana?
I should.
Yes. Oh, we should do giveaways.
Well, I've been getting the t-shirt site set up.
Yeah. Booze and BJJ giveaways. You got a mug that says transition, Position, transition, submission. Quote by Yana.
I'm
So-
telling you, that is the bread and butter that Sugi always taught me. And that has led to many of my successes.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
And
you're
I've been told many times that I'm just so, because I work on transitions so much in my positions, I'm so fast in my transitions that I've been told like that's the hardest thing for people. I have a sticky guard also, but like I work on my transitions so much that I'm just so good at like, okay, this isn't gonna work. Okay, transition to this. Or they just did this. Okay, transition to that. Like just so quick with it. Like I want to be quick with it so that I'm ready for the next thing. I'm ready to set up my next position.
You gotta listen to her. This is coming from a Pens champion, so yeah, I just
Wear my medal.
I just smash people in pressure pass. So just use pressure.
Yeah,
That's what
you
I
have the weight to do that.
These kids are too quick for me. I can't.
Telling you, the
I
smaller
don't
they are,
like
the quicker they are.
I don't like this Wole being heavier than me thing. I definitely need to
Oh
gain my
no,
50 pounds back.
It's going down. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so let's move on to question 3 maybe.
Sure. Oh wow. I'm 60 years old. How should I go about learning jujitsu? Sometimes I feel outclassed by the younger men, and I don't want to creep out the ladies. That's
Um,
I had an answer, but it doesn't seem right now.
What was your answer?
Just don't be a creep.
Well, what do they
That's
mean
not
by
helpful.
creep out the
I know.
ladies? Do they mean by they don't want to train with the ladies because they think the ladies are gonna think they're a creep?
Yeah, I'm a little confused by that because anytime I've seen an older man in training, I'm just like, that's so fucking cool, man, that you're, this old and you still want to still want to get into it and you're not letting age hold you back. Like, if anything, I have mad respect for anybody, man, woman, or otherwise, training that late,
Yeah.
in the game. You can start training whenever. It really doesn't
Yeah,
matter. As long as you're moving your body.
I think I always say it's never too late to start training. I mean, I started when I was late 30s, and even I thought that was way older. But
yeah, I have a friend who's like late 30s and he's like, I don't know if I can do it. I'm like, you totally can do it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think for someone who's 60, you can still do it. I think it just, again, you need to find that partner that's going to really work with you. It may be something where, it may be something where you may want to set up private lessons with the instructor. So like maybe once or twice a week private lessons with an instructor. So that they're not gonna just blast through you and smash you and all of that stuff. So it may be something where it's like you set up some private lessons, and that might help you get the confidence to roll with folks in the class. I think for the most part, jiu-jitsu folks, especially for someone who's older, are a lot more respectful of that, and they're not just going to demolish you.
Yeah, I would say so. I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, if they do, then they're an a-hole and you stay away from them. You just kind of find somebody who would be a good training partner who can take into consideration that you're 60 years old. But I would say do it. It's never too late to start training.
Yeah, I think it also depends on where you're coming from. Like if you have a lifestyle, your entire life of fitness, then you're at a pretty good place to start. And still might not want to go too hard at the beginning or anything, but it definitely depends on your fitness level. I think more of that than your age, and how hard you want to go when you first start. But in order, how should I go about learning jiu-jitsu? Just join a gym. Join a gym, nearby, and be like, hey, I really want to start this journey, and then get yourself a gi, buy yourself a white belt, and start your journey, and that's it. There's plenty of like, seasoned practitioners
Yeah.
who are, still getting their black belts even when they're like
Yeah.
80 years old.
Yeah, I would say, try out a couple of gyms, see what fits for you, see what fits with your schedule, your lifestyle, your activity and fitness level, and and then just go with that. And like Yana was saying, that's why there's a whole category of masters. There
Mm-hmm.
are, white belts, blue belts, all sorts of belts in the masters level. And I think the good thing about actually being older when you start is that you end up being in a group of people who understand that, this is not like your lifestyle, and they understand that both of you have the same sort of issues and maybe, injuries, blah, blah, blah. So they're a lot more forgiving than, if you start out younger.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
I think
Thomas,
that,
looks like you have something.
I think there may be a little bit more to this question because the second half of it says sometimes I feel outclassed by the younger men and don't want to creep out the ladies. So it sounds like he might be already training somewhere, but being outclassed by the younger guys, that's going to happen.
That's
Like,
part of the course. Yeah,
that's part for the course. Creeping out the ladies, I wouldn't worry about that either. Like if you feel like you're creeping somebody out, just stay away from them.
But I mean, if you're, if like creeping out the ladies, I mean, they don't want to train with women because they feel like they're gonna look like the older. To me, it seems like the question is it's saying they don't want to creep out the ladies because they're being outclassed by the younger men, so they want to train with women because they think maybe the woman might go slower. So, but they don't want to be that creep walking up to a woman like, "Hey, you want to train?" But yeah, I think maybe probably the best thing is to, you know, get some private lessons.
I feel like
How that works.
I feel like what's happening to this particular person is that he's going into the class, he's taking classes already, he's going into it, and nobody wants to roll with him.
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like that's what's happening to this person. And he doesn't want to be the one asking. And that's what he means by like, he doesn't want to creep out the ladies. He doesn't want to, I don't think he's necessarily trying to just train with them because he feels outclassed by the guys. I think he's just feeling uncomfortable because nobody wants to ask him because he's the old guy in the class and like nobody wants to roll with him. That's how he's feeling. And he doesn't want to be asking anybody either, like imposing, let alone asking women and making them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy asking me to roll with him?
I've
never felt uncomfortable with any guy, no matter the age, size, shape, whatever, asking me to roll because I'm serious about the sport. And like, the only thing I care about is like, are you going to injure me?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I mostly care about. I don't care. And yeah, are you going to be respectful? That's another big thing. Like,
Yeah.
I've had my share of individuals who were trying to like make it into something, and it's like, dude, I'm just here to train. Like, I don't want anything past that. Like, I don't feel comfortable with you acting this way. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming since you even brought this question up or this aspect to your question about like creeping out the ladies, I assume that you're a respectful man and you don't want to make women feel uncomfortable. So you're not going to be that kind of guy. And so really just need to worry about not injuring them or like not your weight.
I mean, I would, whatever gym this person is out, I'll call out the higher belts and say, you need to handle that. You need to handle that situation because a lot of times the reason people quit is because they feel uncomfortable. Or, you see people who nobody wants to roll with as a higher belt. I think it's your obligation to take that on and to roll with them and to teach them and to help them out. That's that's part of, you may not like it, but that's part of being a higher belt. You need to be able to teach
Help out the
people,
new guy,
help people
man.
out. Yeah. I mean, just the other day, I helped out 2 white belts who didn't understand the technique, and I took time out to help them out, so that's part of the job.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I think we've covered that one. I don't know if we can add any more to it.
Yeah, I think we probably need a bit more information about, how long they've been training,
Yeah.
like what's going on, what's the situation, why do they feel like they're creeping out the ladies, that sort of
Yeah,
thing. But I think on
I
the
agree.
surface, it's just, yeah, just if you're worried about training, just you kind of just have to jump into it. And like again, I said, I would say do some private lessons if you're feeling uncomfortable, or if you feel like people don't want to roll with you,
So I'm really curious about this question now. And I'm wondering if it might be a good idea just to ask this guy to come on so we could get like more info, because he's an older guy. Fine. It sounds like he's trying to be respectful,
Mm,
but it sounds like he's having a hard time training with the younger guys. But it also seems like there's like details missing from this question. Like there's
yeah.
context missing. So it might be, I'll send him a message later tonight
Yeah.
to see if he's willing to come
I
and talk
mean,
to us.
I think that might be a good idea to have, we could have folks on here who have questions, and they could join the chat, and we can interact with them directly. They may get more value out of it than just like sending messages back and forth. So I think that's a good idea. And we
Right.
are older folks here.
No, no,
Yes.
no.
Mhm.
Well, also like as I'm reading these, I thought these would be good questions, and they are, but there's details missing, context missing. We're answering them to the best of our ability, which is fine. But even in myself reading these over and going over answers in my head of how I would answer them, I'm making a lot of assumptions.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's one of those things where, if they're watching or they happen to watch the recorded video, and they don't feel like they don't feel like we answered the question completely, I say feel free to, if you want to jump on, or feel free to send more details or ask more questions. That's why we're here.
Yeah. All right. Shall we go on to number 4?
Yes.
All right. So number 4, I'm a 4-stripe white belt and have been stuck here over a year. I'm assuming he means at that rank.
Yeah.
Would talking to my coach be a good idea? Some of the people I started with have been promoted to blue while I have not.
This is a good question.
How often do you compete? That's my first question. Versus how often do those other practitioners compete?
Uh,
Because if you're not competing, you're just training, but
uh,
you're not competing.
yeah.
I will
I
say
mean,
that's how a lot of promotions
yeah.
are so subjective. Like it really just depends on if the coach thinks you're ready for it. And a lot of that hinges on how often you compete, how often you're winning. I'm just like, that's just fact.
Well, I think also it depends on the school, though. There are some schools that are competition heavy, and there are other schools that people don't really compete. So it depends on this type of school they're in. Now,
Right.
when they
That's why I
say
asked the
talk,
question, like, is
yeah,
competition part of that?
I mean, I think when they say should I talk to the instructor about it, I would say don't go in there like, hey, why don't I have a blue belt? That sort of thing. That never goes,
No.
because then that might even make things worse. I wouldn't say go in there asking why you don't have a blue belt, or like asking to be promoted. That's not a good idea at all. If you want to ask your professor, a good thing to ask is, what things do you think I need to work on, or like, what things do you think I can, where do you think I can improve? What things do you think I'm good at? And then,
How can I get to the next level, man?
yeah, like just ask questions of like what do you think I'm good at? What do you think I need to work on? Because if you're not being promoted and you feel like you've been stuck in a place for a while, then there's something that the instructor is looking for that they feel you haven't gotten yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing is training consistently. I have a professor who's like, his stance on promotions is basically, you can't be that kind of person who comes into the gym, you go for a straight month, you're consistent, and then you take a month off, and then you come back, and then you take another 2-3 months off. You can't, that's not being consistent. You need to be in there consistently, even if it's just like, once or twice a week. You need to be consistent, and I think consistency is the biggest thing for promotions. And then again, depending on your school, competition might be another big thing. So get in there and compete, because that's really a good way to show your professors that you have the skills to be promoted.
Yeah, I mean, presumably the promotion, what it really affects, like what it directly affects is what level you'd be competing at. So it's like the coach deciding, okay, I think they're ready to compete at this belt level. I think they're ready to compete at this next belt level. I feel like that at the end of the day is kind of what, because jiu-jitsu is different than a lot of other martial arts, where in a lot of other forms, there's like a test and there's katas and stuff, and it's very formal and structured and standardized. But jiu-jitsu, like I said, is so subjective, and I feel like what it hinges on the most is whether your coach thinks you'd be ready to compete at that next belt level. But there's so many other factors that go into a promotion. It could be like, if you're someone who doesn't compete a lot, it could be time and grade sort of thing, where you know, like Wole said, you've been consistent, you are dedicating a lot of your time to it, you're helping out others, you're kind of like proactively trying to teach others. And because there's plenty of people who don't compete at all who still get promoted. But I will say the fast track to promotions is competing often and winning at those competitions. That's the fast track for most people. But if you're not one of those people who's interested in competing, then it would be like time and grade and sacrifices made to the sport.
Yeah, and it sounds like this person has moved up the ranks pretty at a decent pace, and it seems like they've kind of plateaued. So I would say look at what's going on in your life, see if you've dropped off in consistency, see if sometimes you go into class and you're just too tired to do rolling and all that other stuff, see if that's part of the issue. But I would definitely, if you're going to approach a professor, I would say approach it from a what is it that I need to work on stance. Like, what is it to not necessarily even what is it I need to work on to get promoted, but just like in general, what is it I need to work on?
Yeah. And it could be like, maybe your coach hasn't recognized you, and that's your opportunity to like show yourself too, and show your passion for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. In college, you have professors who have office hours. If you show up to the office hours, your professor is going to see like, oh, okay, you're really into this. You really want to try. So just I would say look at it from the perspective of ask your professor what is it you need to work on. But I would also, oh, sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
No, I was going to ask, if he's taken any time off. Because if you start with a group of people, then usually one person or two people lag behind, they usually take some time off, which is fine. But if that's the case, then, that's the reason why that you didn't get your blue belt. So that's all I was going to say.
This is actually, I think, a good question for me to answer, because I think I started off jiu-jitsu before both of you, and you are both ahead of me in terms of belt level, right? And that's partly because I took some time off. During COVID, I took those 2 years off. When I started off training, I took off about a year because I was just was not motivated to do anything, to go in and train. So that's part of the reason why I'm still a blue belt. And I also changed schools too. So that's part of the reason why I'm still a blue belt. And it's, you kind of have to understand that if you take time off, then that is going to affect your promotion.
Oh yeah, and you made up you brought up a really good point. Like switching schools has a
Yeah.
huge impact also, because like then this new coach hasn't seen like your consistency. They haven't seen your progression. And getting promoted when you switch schools it's so much harder.
Yeah, because you got to start all over again. You got to
Yeah.
learn. You got to basically introduce yourself to the instructors. You got to learn which instructors to work with. You got to learn how the school works. You have to learn how promotions work. There's a lot of stuff to learn, and that definitely puts you back. So yeah, I would say don't let the whole promotion thing get into your head. If you're consistent and you keep coming, you will get promoted. That's just a fact. You can't. It's impossible to be at do jiu-jitsu for several years consistently and not get promoted.
Right.
If that's the case, then your instructors just don't like you.
Like there's something going on there other than just like normal.
But again, it's like don't let the promotion thing get into your head, because that's one of the fastest ways that people quit, because it's like they expect that they should be promoted because they see everybody else getting promoted and people who started before them, blah blah blah. Like
I mean I felt that too. Like there are girls, I mean, from other gyms, right? There are girls that I competed against when I was a blue belt. We competed against each other at blue belt stage, and they're like brown belt, black belt now, and I'm like, oh god, this
like if I let that in my head, I would have quit a long time ago.
It's hard. It's hard to deal with that. But like you, I also took 2 years off with because of COVID and then baby and whatnot. So it is hard to see that happening around you, and you're like, oh man, like that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, I'm doing the sport because I just enjoy doing the sport, man. But also, like, that belt promotion wouldn't hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like a promotion wouldn't hurt. I get it. I'm a 3-stripe blue belt still, and yeah, I would love to get 4 stripes or promoted. But I understand that there are factors, and life gets in the way. There are certain factors in my life that have led me to not get promoted as quickly as other people. So understanding that and accepting that is what would make you comfortable with the fact that everyone else seems to be getting promoted. But again, just keep going at it, and keep being consistent. It'll happen.
Yeah, and compete when you get the chance to. If you have the money to and the time to, try to compete.
It's also with competition. It's one of those things, like win or lose. It's like you put yourself out there.
Right.
You showed your professors that you are willing to,
test your skills.
Yeah, you're willing to test your skills. You're willing to go up against other people, and you're willing to basically, represent the school, your gym, in a competition. So that's a big thing.
Yeah. Thomas, did you want to add anything?
Well, yeah, just a little bit. Honestly, after a while, I found that the best way to get over situations like this, where you see people getting ahead of you, is to focus on just learning.
Just to leg lock all of them.
That too. But like when I started, because I couldn't really move very well. Like a lot of people who started with me, like, and especially after me, were getting promoted ahead of me. So that was a little bit of a bummer, but I understood the circumstance. It's like, how could I expect to get promoted when I could barely make it through the class? You know, by the time we get to the rolling portion of the class, I can't really move. Like I'm dead. You know, I was a dead weight. So everybody has to take like just an objective look of their situation. And if something is happening, try to see what the difference is, and then just understand that's the way it is.
I
just
like
keep going.
Focus on learning, you know,
Mhm.
you're improving your technique, or focus on a specific technique that kind of redirects your attention from like, oh, I'm bummed out because everyone's getting promoted because, you know, ahead of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all about perspective, people.
And I mean, you know, we've all been there. You know, so it's not an uncommon thing. We've all been there.
Yeah, because both of you started before me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look at you now, Thomas.
Robert and Thomas.
Friggin' brown belt over here.
Yeah.
I mean,
rub your brown belt in our faces, Thomas.
Yana runs circles around me, and Wole can just squish me now. So it is what it is.
You didn't take those 2 years off. That's what that was.
I know. I was.
Yeah. You were still on the grind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like just being sneaky about it, like COVID training in people's basements.
Yeah.
It was rough. You couldn't say anything. You know, it's like, what'd you do this weekend, Tom? Nothing.
Nothing.
Sneaking in through the back door with your gym bag, trying not to be like bringing any attention to you.
But wear a suit over your gi. Just gonna work, folks.
I'm just the gardener. Don't mind me. No.
Yeah.
Anyways,
they knew.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's about that time. So, Wale, final thoughts, sir?
I mean, I would like to go kind of back to what the whole, you know, thing about with the belt thing, and again, whether you're a blue, you know, white belt, blue belt, whatever belt, you know, you just have to focus on what you're trying to get out of jiu-jitsu, and just consistently work at it. It's just like anything else, you know, you're learning something, you have to put in the work, and you have to stay focused, and don't get distracted by all the other stuff that's going on around you.
Yana?
Transition, position, then submission. Okay, people. Write that on your chalkboard.
On a mug.
Those are my closing words.
And I'll leave it as just with this little tidbit of wisdom. Don't be a creep.
Okay.
That's it. Just don't be a creep. If you feel like you're being creepy, don't do it. Okay, that's not useful at all. Anyways, see y'all next time.
All right.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Thomas.
You're welcome.
Bye, Wale.
Bye, Yana.